Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing Justified City Primeval, an FX miniseries that serves as a continuation of the TV show Justified and is based on the Elmore Leonard novel City Primeval, High Noon in Detroit. It was created by Dave Andron and Michael Dinner. It comprised of 8 episodes and aired in 2023, 8 years after the show originally ended. It follows U.S. Marshal Raylan Givens, who is now operating in Miami instead of Kentucky, as he finds himself pursuing Clement Mansell, also known as the Oklahoma Wildman, who has been eluding the Detroit police force. So after finishing the original series, I was genuinely interested to see what kind of avenue this new miniseries would take. And while it certainly had its moments, unfortunately, this one just didn't click with me. It's by no means terrible, it actually started out pretty well, but it kind of got progressively worse as it went along. Why exactly? Well, let's get into it. So firstly, the primary setting of Detroit is an interesting change of dynamics for the show and for Raylan. You know, in many ways, it's a whole new playground with its own set of rules. That combined with the fact that a certain amount of time has elapsed and the political climate has changed in certain areas, Raylan can't always apply his style of law enforcement wherever he desires. I also like the dynamic between Raylan and his daughter Willa. You know, you really buy into these two as father and daughter since Willa is played by Timothy Oliphant's real-life daughter, Vivian Oliphant. And the real challenge for Raylan lies in balancing his work with his time spent with her, something that I'm sure most father figures out there can relate to, especially since he has a hard time keeping her in check due to her somewhat bratty nature. There's a couple of other memorable characters as well, such as Shrutie, the owner of a local bar, Caroline Wilder, a defense attorney, Keith David plays Judge Alvin Guy, and of course, the main antagonist, Clement Mansell, aka the Oklahoma Wildman, played by Boyd Holbrook. Clement is a ruthless criminal who arrives in Detroit, attempting to rob a wealthy Albanian man. However, things don't quite go according to plan, and so this results in the Detroit police intervening. Despite being structured differently from the original show, which had 13 episodes per season, this miniseries was still nicely paced. Some of the episodes are longer than most Justified episodes were, but you'll be fairly engaged enough with the story to not really bother about that. And while I didn't necessarily like the finale, I'll explain why in a bit, the last 10 to 15 minutes were actually pretty cool. As a sort of epilogue to the show, it can work well enough. But as a sort of cliffhanger-y setup for a potential second season, it can also work. Not that we need a second season, but it's still effective in that department. Now, I have quite a few issues with City Primeval, and the first one is that it simply doesn't need to exist. You know, the ending to Justified was a perfect ending in of itself, and while City Primeval doesn't do anything to ruin this ending, it lacks any real reason or purpose to exist other than to revive a TV show that can be considered nostalgic by many. But hey, this is what happens when you prioritize content mandates over quality television. Secondly, it just lacks the charm and appeal of the original show. You know, it's set in a new location, it has a different format, a different title sequence, mostly new characters, it's a product of modern television, and I guess the fact that this wasn't directly based off of any of Elmore Leonard's work that had to do with the character of Raylan Givens kind of plays a part in that. You know, the main character in City Primeval is Raymond Cruz, a character that first appeared in the movie Out of Sight. And when you factor all of this in, I get the impression that this was intended to be a straightforward adaptation of City Primeval, but then the creators decided to shoehorn in Raylan Givens and a few other Justified characters just so that the project stood a better chance of getting financed. That in of itself is solely speculation, but I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. Raymond Cruz does actually make a special guest appearance here, but honestly, I think there was a missed opportunity to have somewhat of a crossover between the two. Even if it meant making Raymond Cruz the main character and having Timothy Oliphant reprise his role as Raylan Givens in a cameo or in a secondary role. That's something I honestly wouldn't have minded. And I also feel that Raylan's daughter Willa could have had a bit more screen time, because after a while her absence is felt. And the weakest episode was no doubt the finale. It felt rushed and was filled with contrived writing. So yeah, overall, this miniseries just didn't work for me, and it's easily my least favorite installment in Justified as a whole. And with that being said, I believe this brings my Justified retrospective to a close. So yeah, this miniseries wasn't the best note to end on, but I'm just gonna pretend that it doesn't exist and that the show ended with season 6. So as for next time, guys, I'm gonna be reviewing season 3 of Reacher when the finale has aired. So look forward to that soon. Thank you all for watching. Please be sure to like the video, share it and subscribe. Ring the bell, take care, and I'll see you soon.